Truth is revealed in many ways, but the most usual is in the spoken or written word. Often what's heard or read is merely a springboard for one's own thinking, which ultimately leads to truths which otherwise would remain undiscovered. For me, the Herald has proved a stimulus to such creative thinking. Paging through the 1970 issues, I found these key messages, which have unlocked new ideas, new truths for me. Today, people hear of many invitations to find happiness through religious institutions. What so many want is to see God in action. And they're asking, where is God at work today? The witnessing opportunity which actively vouchsafes happiness is in the homes, in individual lives, and in communities. Christianity has always been a missionary and witnessing religion, not an esoteric philosophy of life. It was the good news about God and man which the Lord proclaimed. Happiness comes to the person who can convince others that there's some creative, contributing minority which keeps civilization alive. Does man have anything to say about what takes place in history? Does God decree dark ages and periods of light? The story's told that Charlie Jones came upon an accident, and seeing the truck driver pinned in the cab, others seemingly helpless to free the victim, requested the privilege of freeing the injured man himself. Someone commented on the great strength that Charlie had, and he simply said, "A man don't know what he can do until another man is hurting." We live in a dynamic world which constantly presents new moral challenges, many of them unprecedented. We can't know in advance what situations we'll meet, and thus we can't always carry ready-made answers with us. Our moral equipment will have to be more responsive and creative than an inflexible set of rules. It must include a deep knowledge of the meaning of Christian love and an imaginative ability to apply that knowledge to new demands. It must include interaction with the ruler through the Holy Spirit, not just with rules. The fact that God Himself pushes His saints ever forward into changing and transforming circumstances as part of their pilgrimage to the kingdom means that the church, to be obedient, must increasingly see sainthood in terms of faith, in terms of what one can hope for on the basis of what has happened and is happening. Sainthood becomes a devout search for the delineations of God's grace, for the perimeter of His purpose in the world. It affirms God's working grace wherever it exists and fights its adversary to the limit of its flawed ability. The very complexity of the search means that the saint is partially protected if he sees his task as a search rather than an implementation of something he knows for sure, for the dangers of self-righteousness. He doesn't go forth from the sanctuary to prove, but to seek. He goes because God has gone before him. A few weeks ago, I was called upon to escort a young woman to the bedside of her dying mother. When we reached the hospital, we were told that the patient had attempted suicide with an overdose of drugs and would not respond to treatment. She showed only vague signs of consciousness. Her face was gray, and she stared at the ceiling with no expression. Her alcoholic husband stood by her bedside arguing with her brother about why she'd been brought to the state hospital. I listened to them for a few minutes, then turned and looked into the eyes of the daughter. Tears were running down her cheeks, and her eyes held a look of desperation such as I'd never witnessed before. At that moment, I remembered Jesus because I was filled with compassion, just as he must have been when he looked down from the cross and said, "Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do." And I asked myself, what would Jesus do? In that moment, I was filled with the power and authority of Christ. I knew that if I touched this dying woman, she'd be healed. I stepped in front of the two men, and I said, "Let me speak to her." The daughter took her mother's left hand, and I held her right. I called her by name. I said, "Ruth, I'm a friend. I'm here to tell you that your daughter loves you very much, and that I love you too. There's power in my hands, Ruth, and that power is being given to you. Can you feel it, Ruth? Are you starting to get well because we love you?" She looked at me, and it was as if a veil had been lifted. Her eyes became clear, and she said, "Yes, I feel it." 2 days later, she was out of the critical ward, and the following week she went home. Love is the healing power of Jesus. Love for human souls that can burn through the iron curtain of prejudice and hate and differences. A passionate and compassionate love for all mankind. That's what I need from you. And that's what you need from me. During the last 2 or 3 years, the Church has been passing through a rather sharply focused period of self-examination and reevaluation. This has been painful because it's required us to make adjustments in our own lives personally and in the Church. And as long as there's some uncertainty about these adjustments, there will be distress. We who are members of the presiding councils are included in this distress. But we also have growing appreciation for the durable values in which we find our faith in God to be affirmed and enriched. We find our heritage in the Restoration movement to be both valid and challenging as we examine our present situation and make adjustments in order to be true to that heritage. We find ourselves now at a time when our faith has been enriched and our understanding of our objectives clarified. We're in the process of applying these renewed resources to an emphasis on Zion and the gathering and incarnational ministries in our congregational life. And we have the assurance of the Holy Spirit that this is the direction in which we ought to go. We stand now with our past behind us and no reason to turn to the right or to the left. Ahead of us are situations that we cannot yet spell out in every detail, but the direction in which we ought to go is becoming increasingly clear. We hear the voice of God saying, "Why criest thou to me? Go forward." As we respond to that commandment, we shall find God performing miracles for latter-day Israel as he did for Israel under Moses. And those miracles will hasten the coming of that day when the kingdoms of this world shall be the kingdom of our God and his Christ. Often our concepts and beliefs are predicated on preconceived conclusions, which have not been carefully evaluated. A sincere follower of the Lord Jesus finds it valuable constantly to analyze and test the teachings of Christ. In this period of amazing scientific discovery, we're assured that the greatest laboratory available is our lives, and that the most urgent tests to be performed are those that cause us to arouse our faculties even to an experiment upon my words and exercise faith. Among the definitions of a radical are the following: original, fundamental, one who advocates extreme changes in laws and methods. Is Christ a radical? To those who make the accumulation of wealth their goal, he says, "Go, sell whatsoever thou hast and give to the poor." To those who measure success on the basis of popularity alone, he says, "He that is greatest among you shall be your servant." To those who feel segregation is the answer to one of the world's problems, he says, "One being is as precious in his sight as the other. Ye are of equal worth in the sight of God." To those who follow the precepts and philosophies of men, he says, "Come, learn, follow me." To those who love only the lovable, he says, "Love your enemies, do good to them that hate you." To those who are envious, greedy, and lustful, he says, "By their fruits ye shall know them." The fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, faith, meekness, and temperance. To those whose feelings are hurt and who hold resentment in their heart, he says, "Of you it's required to forgive all men." To those who feel they're sitting in the right church, he says, "I sent you out to testify and warn the people. Feed my sheep." To those who are at ease in Zion, he says, "It is yet day when all can work. Go, build." If we've formulated an opinion about whether the Lord is a radical, let's then with introspection ask, am I? These are but a few excerpts from the mind-stretching features that have helped me discover truth about life, about others, about myself. As I've read the Herald, I've discovered other things too. I've learned of pioneering members in the center place who are buying land and drawing up blueprints for a pilot community in which residents will attempt to implement a Zionic social order. I've read of the good news of the gospel being taken into Nigeria, where over 600 people were baptized recently, and to Haiti, where teams of dedicated doctors and nurses have taken the ministry of healing, and where the church has established schools as well as sanctuaries. I've read of the attempts of parents and children to bridge the generation gap, of work being done with alcoholics and drug abusers, of projects in inner city, of camps for the mentally and physically handicapped, of the establishing of the Zionic Research Institute, and of the public relation role of the Restoration Trail Foundation. I've had monthly reports from the presidency, the bishopric, the Council of 12. I've been informed of progress being made in church institutions and departments, and through the news pages I've kept current with what's happening in the regions, stakes, districts, and congregations of the church. I've read of the accomplishments of individual members, and I've had my soul renewed by their testimonies. I've turned eagerly to the pages in which they express their views in letters to the editor. While I may not agree with all that I find printed in it, the Herald gives me information and inspiration I find nowhere else. If I'm to make an honest appraisal of the church and its people and its programs, I must read its official publication. To fail to do so is to deny myself the privilege of being an informed member. To share with us his interest and the interest of the leading officers of the church, here is President Maurice L. Draper.
On behalf of the whole church, we congratulate the Herald House editorial staff and management for its fine achievement in the program to put the Saints Herald into every church home. This has been so successful that many stakes and districts have 100% coverage. The 52,000 subscriptions number more than twice as many than we had before this program was launched about 2 years ago. But congratulations are due as well to the members of the church and their leaders in branches, districts, and stakes. It is your response which makes this possible. The church's current literature is now available to more of the saints than has ever before been true in our history. Perhaps it will be helpful to remind you of the purpose of the Herald, as stated in our editorial in the January 1969 issue, the first of the monthly issues in the present form. The editorial which introduced the first issue of the True Latter-day Saints Herald in January 1860 contains a statement of purpose which is quite appropriate to our time, and we quote from that editorial. "We want it, the Herald, as a medium through which the members can communicate their sentiments to each other, and through which, as well as to preach the word, the ministry can herald life and immortality to all flesh. And we believe, if well sustained, it will prove a mighty means in bringing about a unity of faith and works among all the scattered saints, and of calling the attention of the world at large to the notable fact that God is even now forming among the nations a marvelous work." One of the major factors in the editorial policy of the Herald is that the members of the church need a vehicle through which they can communicate with each other across the miles and across the years. There is the need for a flow of information concerning the program of the church, which it is the responsibility of the presiding quorums to supply to the membership. But an equally urgent need is for opportunity for the members to explore with each other fundamental and meaningful questions about the doctrinal principles which the cause of Zion requires them to recognize as guidelines to relationships and conduct. From its earliest days, the point of view of the Restoration movement has been that revelation and prophetic ministry are inherent in the functions of the church. Our literature also contains references to the process of pervasive inspiration, as it was emphasized by the late President Frederick M. Smith. The principle of pervasive inspiration is itself necessarily founded on free and open communication among all the segments of the church membership. How else can the insights of one become the insights of the whole body? At times, this communication involves ideas which are not widely accepted and which may even be erroneous. But the exposure of such ideas is necessary if those who believe in the basic validity in the Restoration movement are to have an opportunity through dialogue to come to a unity of faith and works by the interaction of their minds and the mutual influence of their lives. Thus reads our editorial in the January 1969 issue of the Herald. We pray that the Church's periodical literature will be increasingly useful in achieving this goal, and that in this way the cause of Zion may be advanced.
Another who has found real value in the Herald is Presiding Bishop Walter N. Johnson.
It is a great feeling to know that every month our official church paper is going to over 50,000 homes. A greater percentage of church members are reading the Saints Herald today than at any time in our history. I grew up thousands of miles from church headquarters in a small branch, isolated from other church contacts except for occasional visits from the missionaries. I have always appreciated the fact that the periodicals of the church came into our home regularly and kept us in touch with the church and what it was doing. As I have traveled throughout the church in my ministry, I have found that families who read the Saints Herald regularly remain in contact with the church. They know about its doctrines, its program, its problems, and its achievements. Repeatedly, in places far distant from church headquarters, I have been surprised at the knowledge that members display of the World Church program and of events occurring within the church. Again and again, I have found that their major source of information was the Saints Herald. Because of varying viewpoints reflected in the Herald, few of us will agree with everything that is published between its covers, but all who read it should find something of educational and inspirational value in each issue. General church officers are very appreciative of the excellent work of the Herald staff and the multitude of workers throughout the church who have made possible this wide distribution of the Saints Herald.
Closely associated with the Herald for many years, Apostle Reed Holmes shares his thoughts with us.
I want to say thanks to you, the members and friends of the church. Here's why. 3 years ago, you said you would support the development of a new Herald and a new subscription program. In less than 6 months from that time, you had boosted circulation from less than 18,000 to well over 50,000, and you have maintained the increase. For the first time, there is a direct, regular link among the vast majority of the saints. There is real opportunity to share our faith and concern, our hope and heartache, our joy and dismay. The Herald has meant much to me personally through the years, and I've seen its influence in many others. The Herald helps to keep us alert and informed and draws us together in gospel bonds. So thanks for keeping the Herald a growing, vital instrument of communication.
Perhaps the best evaluation of all is what subscribers themselves say about the Herald. Here are excerpts from a few letters received at Herald House.
Dissent is one of the most beautiful processes in which we are allowed to participate. A compliment is in order to the Herald for permitting people of differing views to express their opinions. Though I cannot agree with the convictions of some of my fellow members, I am glad to see them in print. I'm convinced the church does have something to offer the world because it can encompass people of such diverse outlooks.
I've been a member of the church for 2.5 years, but didn't receive the Herald until the Herald In Every Home program became effective. Since then, its arrival has become a highlight of the month, especially since I've become an isolated member. When I've been discouraged, there has never failed to be an article or letter that seemed directed to me, and many a troubled prayer has been answered through its pages.
I want to add to the many letters of appreciation for the Herald. I am not a member, but hope to be someday. Friends in the church give me their heralds, and I look forward to receiving each one. As I am partially sighted, I am grateful for the clear black print. Keep up the good work. The Herald means so much to me.
I'd been a more or less inactive member for some time until I was given several issues of the Herald, including the one which contained the article, Lights in Zion. Now I feel like the prodigal who returned home. I am proud of my church and its commitment to helping solve the problems of today in personal lives and in the community. The Herald should be in every member's home. It can help others as it has helped me. I have rededicated my life to Christ with a new sense of joy, love, and understanding and desire to become involved. I was a lost sheep, and the Herald has brought me back into the fold.
Truth is revealed in many ways. Don't deny yourself the opportunity to know the truth about what the church is doing. If you approve, give it your support. If you don't approve, offer your suggestions for betterment. But do so as a well-informed member. The Herald is your best link with the world church. Read it and encourage others to do so.